Good morning, everyone. Yesterday was a very, very busy day. I was super busy, so I didn't get to a second video, but I was in Toronto and I met Mr. Bernier. So that was a neat experience for me. I was at an event of his and I asked a question, and I suppose my voice is very recognizable. And after the panel, I met a whole bunch of people who were excited to meet me. So that was really, really cool. I've never experienced something like that. And it was really nice to meet all of you. So thanks for coming and saying hi. And yeah, very cool. I'm excited to meet more people as this People's Party matures and more events happen, et cetera, et cetera. So very cool, everybody. So I saw this poll and man, is it exciting. I really like this poll. And why do I like this poll? Well, I didn't think that they would show the Liberals as this weak yet, but I mean, they must be really, really weak. And yeah, they are really, really weak. And 25%, that's not even in minority territory. And this is just one poll. So this isn't conclusive, but it's certainly another notch in a trend, right? A very, very steep downward trend. And we're going to look at some editorializing on the Angus Reid page here and the results of this poll. So here we go. May 3rd, 2019, Angus Reid is reporting the ongoing fragmentation of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's 2015 Progressive Coalition is paying dividends for Canada's other left of centre parties. A new public opinion poll from the non-profit Angus Reid Institute finds that more than 4 in 10, 44%, who voted for Trudeau's party in 2015 now disapprove of the Prime Minister, and more than half now plan to vote for a party other than the Liberals or are undecided. Okay, so I just want to put this into perspective. 170 seats gets you a majority. The Liberals were elected with 184 seats in 2015, but now, because of, people like Jody Wilson-Raybould and Scott Bryson, which is two different tales, but still Liberal scandals, right? Scott Bryson is Mark Norman and Irving Shipyards, and Jody Wilson-Raybould is SNC, and she wouldn't play ball, right? She wouldn't give them the DPA, so she was removed from cabinet and then removed from caucus, right? Can't have those Liberals breaking ranks, right? So that's what happened to these people. So their 184 majority turned into a 177 majority. But now 50% of the people who did vote for Justin Trudeau don't plan on voting for him again. Count me among that. Sorry, guys. I know. I learned, and that's why I'm doing this. I'm paying my penance. But still, 50% of people are not going to vote for Justin Trudeau. So what does that look like? That looks like a soft 25%. That looks like a really, really big opportunity. And I don't know how accurate these polls are. We're going to continue reading here. And, well, we'll keep reading. While the Conservative Party of Canada holds a sizable lead among the decided and leading voters, it's the Green Party, fresh from a provincial level breakthrough in Atlantic Canada, that is building up the greatest amount of proportional support. I want to stop here and just remind you that in the lead up to the PEI election, they were saying Green majority, 17 seats. 17 seats and 14 would have got them a majority, I believe. 14, I think, is the majority in PEI. Correct me if I'm wrong. But they're saying 17 seats because the Liberals were so unpopular. Even the leader lost his seat in PEI of the Liberals. So, and the result was actually the Progressive Conservatives got 12 seats, the Greens got 8 seats, and the Liberals got 6 seats. And the Liberals were elected previously in PEI with 18 seats, and they entered election with 16 seats. And so losing 10 seats to have a split like that doesn't sound like people are running to any one party. It sounds like people are looking for somebody who's not going to blow up the economy stupidly like the Liberals have done for the last 3.5 years or however long they've been in power. I think that's what this is happening. And I could be wrong, but it's interesting to hear the editorialization from pollsters and from news articles. And when actual elections happen, when you get actual data, it is not borne out. Interesting stuff. Back to the article. The Liberals have lost 3 more points in the last 3 months, and the CPC and NDP sit largely unchanged. The Green Party, meantime, picks up 3 points among decided voters and now breaks into the double digits at 11%. Fueling the Green surge and bolstering the NDP outside of Quebec, where it's weakest, are dissatisfied former Liberal voters. And I have one more graph to show you. This one here. And I am absolutely, I'm not sure, but my brain is thinking in February, just before SNC broke, the CPC was actually at 34% and the LPC was 37%. But they don't want to have they don't want a 12-point drop on this graph. So, which I don't blame, well, they being the Liberals. I'm sure that Angus Reid, well, maybe Angus Reid cares, but I'm not sure they do. But I don't remember the Conservatives being that far ahead of the Liberals back in February. Without SNC, I don't think the Conservatives were ahead. And so this poll looks a little doctored, but still, I like that slant. Terrible sound effects. Okay, sorry about that. But I like that graph. So Maxime Bernier is tweeting, quote, in response to this tweet, he says, quote, Why did you leave the Conservatives? You should have fought to stay. Most people I know would have voted for you. And Max says, quote, I left because there was no place for my bold ideas under Scheer's leadership. Remember, he publicly disavowed me after my 6 tweets on radical multiculturalism. You could not have voted for my ideas if I had stayed. Now you have a choice. And I'm glad that we have a choice. I met Mr. Bernier yesterday, as I said, and I was glad to, and he was a very nice guy, and he has my vote. He has my support. He has more than my vote. He has my enthusiastic support. And I mean, anybody who watches this channel knows that. So there's that. Here is a weird story that I kind of ignored at first, and I'm not going to ignore because it's if you want a place at the table, if we have a decorum, if we have, you need to be serious in order to take part in the political discord, then this is beyond the pale. This needs to be condemned by any NDP or anybody who were there. Here's what happened. Doug Ford's tweeting, quote, I normally don't get too concerned by protests. I'm here to help the real people working in the back of factories, on the front lines of our hospitals, and in farmers' fields. But sometimes protests go too far. The NDP who were there need to condemn this threatening stunt. And here's the whole image. And it says, Reds won his head. And as I said, we have government. It's serious. If you're in government, there are people whose lives you will affect by the choices that you make. And you hope that you'll affect their lives in a positive way. But if you're taking part in something like this is not what you're supposed to be doing. This is, at the very least, implying violence and threat against a specific person, Mr. Ford, and bringing a guillotine and legitimizing it with the presence of an elected official is beyond the pale and should be condemned. And if you're the leader of the party, you should be punished, publicly punished. There should be sanctions or something to that effect, some kind of mechanism. And I'm sure, a public statement saying that this person has been, would be enough. But that's necessary because, like I said, you must have this much decorum in order to join the serious conversation if you want to be taken seriously. And waving a commie flag around with the hammer and the sickle and having a guillotine saying we want Doug Ford's head removes you from the conversation. It doesn't legitimize anything at all. It makes anyone who is attached to this, elected or covering their face walking around, a joke. Really. They should be ashamed of themselves. So, this is the last one. And this is, I'm going to read this without comment. I'm going to let Mr. Goodale say what he says, and then I'm going to read it without comment. And let me know what you think in the comments.
Weakening in the security situation whatsoever. We undertook to make sure that the language used in the public threat report was expressed in a way that did not impugn or condemn an entire religion. The issue here are people who engage in terrorist activity that actually defies the precepts of their religion. So to allow their deviant behavior to be a criticism of a total religion or a total culture is just wrong.
So here's the headline. Government removes all mention of Sunni and Shia extremism from terrorist threat report. In what way can you fight a threat if you cannot name the threat? Just a question. Here's the article. The government has again revised a report that is supposed to update Canadians on the major terrorist threats they face, removing all references to Islamist extremism. While the report, first released in December, had initially identified attackers, quote, inspired by Sunni Islamist ideology as the main terrorist threat to Canada, that line has now been cut. All mention of Sunni and Shia extremism were also taken out of the annual report, along with section headings on both types of terrorism. The so-called Islamic State, Al-Qaeda, and their regional affiliates use terrorism to promote their version of Sunni Islamist extremist ideology, while Hezbollah is a Shia extreme group. But Public Safety Minister Ralph Goodale told reporters Thursday he wanted the terrorist threat report to use language that, quote, did not impugn or condemn an entire religion. The issue here are people who engage in terrorist activity that actually defies the precept of their religion, so as to allow their deviant behavior to be a criticism of a total religion or a total culture is just wrong, he said. The idea that the objective here is to get language which is precise, which focuses on the issue issue that is being reported on in a clear and accurate way that does not impugn an entire community or an entire religion that is not responsible for the terrorist behavior. Scroll down. The government had already cut the term Sikh extremism from the report following complaints. A section heading on violence linked to the fight for an independent Sikh homeland is now gone. The latest change was announced on Twitter and Facebook by Liberal MP Ruby Sahota, sorry if I've got that wrong, who wrote that she had worked with Goodale to remove language from the report. The report no longer contains the terms Sikh, Sharia, and Sunni, she wrote. Words matter. Our agencies and departments must never equate any one community or entire religion with extremism. But in a blog post Wednesday, former Canadian Security Intelligence Services, CSIS, analyst Phil Grusky, sorry if I've got that wrong, likened the government's repeated second-guessing of the report to a comedy routine. Quote, to my mind, this is just political correctness and electioneering gone mad, wrote Gursky, who also worked at Public Safety Canada, which produced the threat report. The inability to call a threat is what makes it harder to identify and neutralize it. After the second report prompted complaints, Goodale said he was confident it was, quote, never intended to encompass or malign entire religions. He said that he had asked officials to review the terminology and make the appropriate changes to the language used throughout the government to describe extremism. The latest revision of the report contains no reference to the religions, with the exception of terrorist group names such as ISIS and the International Sikh Youth Federation. Conservative MP Pierre Paulhouse, sorry if I got that wrong, accused the government of playing politics and said he did not understand why it would just erase this information critical for the security of Canada. Despite cutting references to Sikh, Sunni, and Sharia extremism from the annual report, Public Safety Canada continues to use the terms in its online list of outlawed terrorist groups. Asked how the descriptions malign communities, Goodale's spokesperson Scott Bardsley said, quote, the impact of these terms may not be readily apparent to some who come from places of privilege, who seldom experience judgment based on skin color or religion alone. Okay, I'm going to comment. Can you believe this? He asked, how does this description malign communities? And then he gets shamed for being privileged? Come on! Ridiculous! What an absolute... Oh, okay, and that'll be the end of my comment for today. But this is what we have to deal with. There is absolutely no pathway to a rational, reasonable conversation with this inept government. These people are not interested in keeping people safe. They're interested in keeping the language muddy and confusing. So I'm sick and tired of this ridiculous, ineffective government, and I can't wait till this 25% is closer to 2 or 1%, because they don't deserve even that. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out the peoplespartyofcanada.ca. I think Maxime Bernier deserves much higher in the polls. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful day.